Dear audience, dear chair, my topic is accuracy of digital technology in implant prosthodontics from impression taking to cast fabrication, and I would like to present you my progress in the first year of my PhD studency. I'm Boldizsár Vánkos from the Department of Prosthodontics. My supervisor is Barbara Kispei. My scientific methodology supervisor is Kata Kelemen. And my vision is to establish modern, simple, and accurate and patient-friendly workflows in implant prosthodontics. And my mission to achieve this is investigating the accuracy and efficacy of novel technologies in the fields of implant prosthodontics. Currently, I have two projects running. Both of them are systematic reviews and meta-analysis. My first project is comparing the accuracy of additive versus conventional cast fabrication in implant prosthodontics, a systematic review and meta-analysis. When fabricating an implant prosthesis, one of the most important things is that the analogs in the cast should be in very accurately in the exact same position as the implants are in the jaws. To achieve this, dentists most often use the conventional method, which is taking an open tray impression and then pouring it with gypsum. This is a well-proven method. It's been used for a long time, but it has its limitations. It's time-consuming, it's quite labor-intensive, there are many possibilities for error, and since it's done by hand, the quality is not constant. Additive manufacturing can offer a solution to these problems. It's much more time and cost-effective, it can be partially or fully automated, and therefore it can produce a constant standard quality. However, this is a technology still being developed and improved, and therefore the accuracy is under question. So my clinical question is, what is the accuracy of additively manufactured implant cast compared to the conventional method? To answer this question, I decided to use the PICO framework with the population of dental typodonts with implants, where the intervention group was additive cast fabrication, the comparator group was conventional cast fabrication, and the outcomes were the 3D and linear deviations of the implant analogs in micrometers. Our hypothesis is that additive cast manufacturing in implant prosthodontics is at least as accurate as the conventional method. I conducted my systematic search in 3 databases with a total 3,568 articles, and also we conducted a repeated search more than a half year later to explore if there are any more legible articles. After the selection process, I had a final 8 legible full texts. Based on these 8 full text studies, we conducted our statistical analysis. We examined the horizontal, the vertical, and the overall root mean square deviations of the implant analogs. Also, we conducted an analysis for absolute values as well. Our outcome measures were means and standard deviations in all the outcomes. Here you can see my first figure. It shows the mean difference of root mean square deviations between the conventional and the additive cast fabrication methods. Root mean square deviation is an often used formula to describe overall deviations, overall 3-dimensional deviations. And this is important data because the positional accuracy of implant analogs determine the accuracy and the final fit of the prosthesis. We can see that there is quite high heterogeneity. There are data on both sides of the plot, but it's very important to emphasize that the consensus for a clinically acceptable accuracy, a threshold for clinically acceptable accuracy, is 120 micrometers. And as you can see, all the data is within this clinically acceptable accuracy level. So we decided to pull them together despite the big heterogeneity because of this threshold and because they are all widely used and often used and accepted technologies in the field of dentistry. Based on these results, there were no statistically significant and nor clinically relevant differences between the two methods. In the next two slides, in the next two figures, you can see the vertical displacement of the implant analogs in the control and in the intervention group, namely the conventional and the additive cast fabrication group. The outcomes are again means and standard deviations. The relevancy is the same. The accuracy of the analogs determines the accuracy of the final prosthesis, and the threshold for these values again was the same, 120 micrometers. In this case again, with a high heterogeneity, but still all the data was within the acceptable, clinically acceptable accuracy threshold. And we couldn't find any statistically significant nor clinically relevant differences between the additive and the conventional cast fabrication methods. And finally, we see the horizontal displacement of the implant analogs in the control and in the intervention groups, again with means and standard deviations and with the same clinically acceptable threshold. And in this case, we had one outlier, but except that one outlier, all the data was within this acceptability, clinically acceptable accuracy threshold. And in this case, there were no clinically relevant nor statistically significant differences as well. The strength of our study is that it's based on a novel problem statement, including not only the impression taking process, but also the cast fabrication. It follows a strict reporting system and methodology, and in contrast with the previous reviews on this topic, we could conduct a statistical analysis as well. There are limitations as well, of course. The main limitation was the low number of data and the inconsistency of data reporting and methodology in the articles, and also the transparency of data reporting in the included articles was not always as good as we would like it to be. All in all, the conclusion of our analysis is that additively manufactured implant casts are as accurate as conventional gypsum cast, which in the practice means that additive technology is as reliable as the conventional method, and clinicians can decide freely based on the needs and preferences of each case to use this technology. It would be more than useful in this field if the data reporting was more coherent and consistent, and if the focus of research would shift from in vitro to in vivo. Currently, my manuscript is finished and sent in for internal review last week, and the target journal is the Journal of Prosthodontic Research, which is a D1 journal. My second topic is comparing the accuracy of conventional versus different digital implant impression taking techniques. It's a systematic review and meta-analysis as well. Traditionally, the gold standard in implant prosthodontics is open tray impression taking, which usually means the splinting of the implant copings. It usually means the use of some high quality impression materials such as additional silicone or polyether, which is a complicated and lengthy process. It's unpleasant and often even painful for the patients. And because of the lengthiness and the complicated process, it carries many possibilities for error. A promising alternative could be digital impression taking with intraoral scanners, both with scan bodies and with coded healing abutments. This promises a much simpler, quicker workflow with 2 to 3 times reduced chair time and no pain and no or much less discomfort for the patients. However, in this case as well, the biggest question is that the accuracy of this novel technology whether it can match the accuracy of the well-proven gold standard method. So in this case, I also chose the PICO format with patients and data and typodonts with implants, 2 intervention groups, digital impression taking with scan bodies and with coded healing abutments, and the comparator group was conventional open tray impression taking, and the outcomes again 3D and linear deviations in micrometers. Conducted my systematic search in 3 databases with a total of 2,081 hits, and I finished my selection process and got a final 64 eligible full-text studies. So the next step is the data extraction, which I already started. To summarize my progress, my first project is under internal review, and hopefully I can submit it in September, and I plan to submit my second topic in December. Thank you for your attention, and I would like to finish my presentation with a quote from Antal Serb: "As long as we keep moving, we don't notice how tired we are, only when we sit down."
Congratulations on your work. I was just curious when I saw your forest plot that there were like the same names, the same year, and also the number of the patient. What's the reason behind this?
Yes, thank you for your question. The reason behind this is that they are different outcomes from the same articles. So, for example, in this case, in this analysis, we could use 4 articles from the 8 we had, because not articles included all the outcomes. So for this outcome, we could use 4 studies, but some of the studies had use different technologies, and we could extract data considering the different technologies, and we could compare them as well.
So the patients, they are different?
No, they are the same patients, or in this case, it's not even patients, they are in vitro studies, so it's the same in vitro subject and the same process with different technologies.
Actually, in that case, that maybe it would be good to add some more notes over there. You see, I mean, just because very hard to understand if you are an outsider, or even a reader or reviewer, that if you just add an additional kind of this puzzle word or whatever, because of, I mean, to show the differences. So this is a good point.
Thank you.
And just maybe also regarding the outlier, like
Yes.
what's the reason? Have you investigated it?
Yes, we try to investigate it. I think it was this slide, yes. We try to understand the reason behind this, and we thoroughly checked the methodological part of the articles, but we couldn't find any obvious reasons. So they did everything the same as the others, theoretically, or at least that's what they reported, and still there were these big differences, but we don't know the reason. It might be the experience of the operator, for example.